Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and maybe you can hear me, maybe you can't. Everything's covered in snow. So I got out here today to try to just test some more equipment, kind of push the limits of some of my gear, and yeah, we're in a pretty bad storm, basically a blizzard, got a ton of snow overnight, and it's kind of, an annual reminder at this point in time to get out and actually test all your stuff in your worst of conditions environment, right? If you're not out in the rain or in the snow or in the extreme heat or the extreme cold, actually testing your stuff or running drills or trying to see how your equipment works, then how are you going to know it's going to actually have your back when times dictate it's necessary, right? Bad things don't wait for the best possible day to occur. They often coincide with some of the worst possible weather. And you see it all the time just in daily life. People don't even they don't even anticipate the weather when it comes to just standard daily operations of driving to work, right? And before I get too far into this rant, I do want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And of course, thanks to them, I can get out here and do a lot of this testing. And a lot of the gear that I have here is also easily found through them, including the Swiss eye mask, which today I might have pushed a little harder than usual and finally got these lenses to fog up pretty bad to the point where I was having a hard time seeing my reticles. Now, just as a quick, tip or idea, I guess, based around the fact that I'm out here in this extreme cold, it's snowing, I'm getting exasperated running around doing drills, which means this is starting to heat up and I'm starting to sweat and everything else. And my lenses began to fog. And of course, once they fog and if you let them cool down, they start to freeze or you get some crystallization on the lenses from the ice. And one thing I found that is just maybe something I'll share with you all in case it helps you or is beneficial for you is that the illumination on my reticles, whether or not it was my RMR or if it was my ACOG, helped at least give me perspective as to where that reticle was. Whereas if I didn't have any illumination at all, I'm not sure if I would have been able to see a reticle at all. So keep that in mind in case you're in this type of an environment. Having maybe a level of illumination or at least a secondary sighting system like a backup red dot might be worth having because it at least gave me a point of reference that I could otherwise possibly not have had. So just something to kind of mention, but these are the things you learn by coming out here and actually testing your stuff. And actually I'm sitting behind my berm right now because I was trying to get a little bit of reprieve from the wind, and it's not going very well. But the other thing to keep in mind is that the average person is going to drive over the top of a mountain in the middle of a blizzard because they didn't take the 5 seconds it took to check the weather. They had 3 days notice in California recently when it came to anticipating a very large storm in the Sierra Nevadas. And even so, with all that notice and with all the warnings about the road conditions and the extreme weather that they were anticipating, even with all that being said, they had, I think it was 200 to 300 cars piled up on the mountain, and they were stuck there from like 5 p.m. on Friday to like 2:30 in the morning on Saturday. Now, I don't believe there were any casualties or anything, which is really excellent, of course, but also extremely lucky based on those types of conditions. But we also just got a quick reminder that 200 to 300 people were still just willing to give it a try, even though it was a terrible idea. And sometimes you just got to know when to not go. Sometimes you just got to know when it's not worth, your job or whatever endeavor you're trying to pursue that's requiring you to drive through that type of extreme weather. It's just not worth it sometimes. You just shouldn't take the risk. But people are going to do it no matter what, and that'll happen all the way up until the end of the world, where people will just ignore any of the warning signs and ignore any of the calls for caution, and some of them will be just completely unaware of them in general, and then they'll be asking for somebody else's help to dig them out of that problem when the time comes. So, I mean, it's just kind of a great analogy as to what to expect moving forward as things get more difficult here in our world, and the general population seems unwilling to adapt to it. Yeah, let's see if we can clean that off a little bit. Looks like the camera's getting a little angry with me here. There we go. Is that better? It's really hard for me to tell. Everything's covered in ice, including my phone, which is what I'm filming on right now. and it's covered in snow. I'm doing the best I can here, but I want to at least have these conversations because although I get out here and I get some shooting in and I get to do some training and I get to learn about what is good or not good about my equipment, like what's going on with my RMR right now, which I'm pretty sure you can tell is maybe not the best case scenario and part of the issue with open emitter optics, especially in the 12 o'clock piggyback position, but there's obviously ways around that. It's very fogged up now, but the snow's gone. Either way, without coming out here and doing all this, then I don't have as much additional information to share. And so that's why I want to do these things and then have these conversations. Another thing to keep in mind that I think it's kind of obvious to those who know how cold weather works, but maybe not so obvious to those who aren't used to it or aren't considering having to put themselves out in this hostile environment, whether or not it's cold, heat, rain, dryness, whatever it is, right? Any hostile environment, you always got to anticipate your conditions once you are active. How warm are you once you're fully active? How warm are you once you're wanting full speed, right? How hot are you going to get when you're actually putting in manual labor in those conditions versus just standing there, maybe doing like something as rudimentary as, standing guard or running a post or whatever it may be. There's different necessities when it comes to clothing and the level of warmth that you have to build upon if you're going to be running around versus going to be more stationary. So that's another thing to consider if you haven't been out in this type of weather using your gear. It might seem like it's good to go when you're just standing around inside your house or maybe you're just out on the perfect day, right? But if you're not in this type of stuff, you won't know how much is too much when it comes to overdressing, clothing, and stuff like that, or how much is too little based on the in-between of running and then stopping, and then running and then stopping, and apply that to whatever you want, whether or not it's because you're out here having to deal with livestock, or whether or not it's because you're out trying to work on flat tire, or if it's because you are literally just anticipating something happening and you're trying to keep an eye out for it. Those are all considerations to make. Hold on, let's see if we can get some additional improvement here. I feel better about that. I don't know if it's better, but we're just going to say it is. So, listen. High quality, well put together rifle that is, obviously more expensive. Zero issues at all today out here in the snow. No problem at all. Ran 100% reliably, and I haven't had a single issue. Optics, a couple issues when it came to glass being occluded by snow, when it came to the open emitter being occluded by snow, but still able to work around it and get on target and make things happen. Plate carrier, right now it's full of snow. Every single crevice of it is full of snow. The magazine pouches are full of snow. The radio pouch is full of snow. Everything's just full of snow. That's why I have it on the outside, although that might seem counterintuitive because on the inside it'd be protected and wouldn't have snow all over it. But I also want to be able to access some of this gear as easily from the inside, and I wanted to try that out as well. I mean, you can wear the jacket over it or you can wear it under it. What's the pros and cons? Well, if you don't do both, you're not going to know. So right now I'm going with it over, and I'm finding out that, okay, everything's going to get full of snow. Even my zipped up Onward Research drop pouch, I don't know why, the dangler is for some reason full of snow too, and I assume the snow's getting in through the drainage holes at the bottom while I'm in prone. But either way, it just kind of reminds me of what I need to do when it comes to protecting electronics or batteries or anything of that nature regarding the snow getting into it, because it will most definitely get into it. That's at least what I'm finding when I wear it on the outside, of course. Considerations to make, things to keep in mind, but in all honesty, you got to just get out and do things in this stuff. Like, this is awful. I'm not enjoying this, really. This hand is, frozen right now. Kind of hurts a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And my face isn't feeling the best because I had to take the mask off because it got so fogged up I couldn't see anymore. Would I know that if I didn't do this? No. Would I have the ability to take that data back to the drawing board and try to apply some additional redundancies in order to avoid some of these issues in the future? Well, I mean, you'd have to do this in order to have that data, right? So, don't assume SHTF is going to be on the nicest day of the year. Be ready for it being on a day like this. And then hopefully you'll be pretty confident in what you've put together at that point in time to know, I could probably get the job done even in that type of condition. And the only way to feel good about it and confident about it is to actually do it. So, anything else you need from me at all, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.